Hey, what is going on, everybody? It is your boy Cool Mama Jam here, and we are back with another episode of RPG Speak. And today is going to be a different thing, even though I've only technically had one episode of RPG Speak up. Wink, wink. Um, but this video isn't going to be talking about RPG tabletops because there wasn't a lot of tabletop news that I thought was worth sharing. From what I saw, it was just a bunch of figure releases for some tabletops, role-playing games, some minor expansions, and I think the most noteworthy thing was the Pathfinder 2.0 pre-game. I think that's what it's called. I can't exactly remember what they call it. Pre-play or something like that. That releases August 14th. Some players will be able to play it early and test it. It's the game test. That's what it's. The game test. But that's August 14th, and the game releases August of 2019, which kind of makes me sad because personally, Pathfinder was one of my favorite RPGs. I mean, it's top three. It's third because I mean it's right underneath Deadlands in 5th edition. So I mean, it's up there in the top three just because of its simplicity, and it wasn't the game that I started out playing. I started out playing D&D 2nd edition, which is a terrible, terrible thing to do. Just don't play 2nd edition. It's terrible. I love D&D, but 2nd edition was a mistake. Way too much math. But yeah, Pathfinder was great. 2.0 coming out August 2019. It's gonna take a while, so probably won't hear from me about it for a while. Maybe up until the game test or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, like I said, not a lot of tabletop news. So today we are going to be if you guys don't know, E3 happened over the weekend, and today we are going to be covering some of the biggest announcements, in my opinion, from it. And we're not going to get to the biggest one yet. We're going to start out small, just so that way I can keep you guys here for as long as I want you to. So you guys can hear my take on it. Although chances are you don't give a flying fuck about my opinion. So, it's cool. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. But we're going to start off with something that kind of, in my opinion, got overshadowed by probably the biggest announcement at E3 over the weekend. And that is the Assassin's Creed Odyssey game. That trailer was released over at E3. I'm not the world's biggest Assassin's Creed fan. I love the games. Don't get me wrong. I've played them all. But as it comes into terms with lore and, just general, not fanboyishness, I guess you can say, but, in terms of, I just play the game because I like it. That's pretty much all I do. I don't go in depth and search lore and whatnot. I just play it because I like the game. I love the puzzle. I love puzzle. Well, I don't necessarily love puzzles, but I like the fact that it makes you use your brain to figure out where to go and how to get to this certain thing and whatnot, and it's great. I enjoy the games. But this game, like I said, in my opinion, got kind of overshadowed by the biggest announcement at Fallout 4, which we'll get to. And you guys probably already know what I'm talking about. But Fallout, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, it's supposed to take place in ancient Greece. If you were paying attention to anything E3 related before E3 and the leaks and whatnot, you would know that you would have known that there was a new Assassin's Creed game on the way. But this game is so it was so big that Ubisoft had to release its entire name with it early. They released the teaser trailer for it and the actual trailer for it at E3. It has one of two playable characters, Cassandra and Alexios. And it takes you through the events of the Peloponnesian War. Once you choose a character, you'll have to play with that character for the rest of the game. So choose wisely. I highly recommend choosing wisely because you don't want to get stuck with the character that you don't want to get stuck. You're gonna be, like I said, you play with the same character the entire game, so you'll be stuck with that character. So if you don't want to play a girl, choose the guy. If you don't want to play the guy, choose the girl. You know, it's like any game that has both genders. It's got it. Both the characters possess the Spear of Leonidas, which obviously will play a major role in the game because you don't just get a weapon like the Spear of Leonidas and not have it play a major role in the game. And it's building on the RPG mechanics that were introduced in Assassin's Creed Origins last year. It has additional dialogue options, equipment skill trees, and the promise of player choice affecting the world as a whole. So it's like they're trying to make it an RPG, like, because I mean, if you played the last Assassin's Creed games, it was more about getting to it. It was more about finding something and then killing somebody and whatnot. It was an assassin's game. You know, you were told to go kill this person, and then you have to go through all this stuff to kill them, and you uncover a big secret along the way, and then you have to figure that out. And it wasn't too role play. It was really linear, which I did a video about linear and sandbox RPGs on my main channel, Cool Man Pajama. Go check that out. Link in the description. Yes, shameless plug for my main channel there. But yeah, they're trying to make it more RPG based, where, like it says, the choices you make will affect the world, and it's like an RPG game, like Fallout, like Skyrim. The choices, like if you kill somebody, that could have repercussions in the later game, like in Fallout 4. You pick a faction, and the faction that you choose will ultimately affect the outcome of the end of the game. You know, so I mean, it's good that they're trying to make it an RPG now, because right now RPGs are at an all-time high in terms of popularity and just in terms of popularity and money in general. People are paying $60 just to get base game versions of a game. You know, because you've got the base game, and then you've got like a deluxe edition that will come with all the DLCs and whatnot, and then then there's a lot of times there'll be a season pass that will come out with the game's release, where you will get access to the DLCs as they come out and whatnot. And so RPGs go for a lot of money. People will pay a lot of money to play those games. And like I said, most RPG games nowadays are around the $50 to $60 mark for just the base game, because people will buy them. And it works. You know, the system works. And it all comes down to making a good game, which I hope this is. Because if you don't make a good game, people aren't going to spend money on it. And if you also don't make a good game and you come out with another version of that game, nobody's going to buy it for $50, $60. You're going to have to push down the price to like $20 or $30 just for the base game. You know, so which will ultimately cut down on your budget for the game, and it'll make your games even shittier. Um, but yeah, it's a good direction they're going with the RPG. It's going to make them money. It's going to give us a really good experience. I have complete and total faith in Ubisoft because they have not let me down too much with the Assassin's Creed games. There are a lot of Assassin's Creed games that they have let me down with, such as Assassin's Creed India and Assassin's Creed Russia. Those are terrible games. Please do not make 2D side-scroller games again. Or no, I think they're classified as 2.5D. So, don't sue me. Or sue me. Whatever the fuck you like. You're not going to get anywhere with it. But yeah, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. It looks good. I've watched the trailer. I watched the teaser trailer. I watched the gameplay of it. And all I can say is that I'm looking forward to it. Will I pre-order it? Probably not. Honestly, I don't think I can see myself pre-ordering an Assassin's Creed game in general just because I'm not that big of a fan of it. I don't need to get my hands on it immediately. So, yeah, I'm probably not going to pre-order it. I'll probably just wait for its release, wait a little while, and then, buy it when I feel like it. Then we get on to what is debatable the biggest news of E3. And I say debatable, we'll get to that in a second, because there was something else announced, or teased, I bet is better to say, that might just overshadow this game. But, of course, you guys probably already know what I'm talking about. Fallout 76 was officially announced it was officially announced at E3. Well, I don't want to say officially announced. The trailer for it and gameplay of it was released at E3. The game was announced sometime last week or the week before during Bethesda had like a 24-hour live stream going about it and whatnot. And people were before that they tweeted out a picture, GIF of the Please Stand By the Please Stand By video that starts up most Fallout games that you see at the beginning of Fallout 4. And all I can say is I'm hyped. I'm pre-ordering the shit out of this when I'm able to. And the pre-order, you're able to get access to the beta. It's a closed beta. So there are people who seem to have a problem with that, and I kind of see where they're going with it. I see their point where it's kind of they want to play the game before they spend $60 on it actually for the full game. They want to see if they'll enjoy it, but at the same time, I kind of understand because you can't give everybody access to a game this big before release. That's just not how it works, especially the fact that it's going to be co-op. You can't give the entire world access to a beta of this big of a game. It's just, you just can't do that. And I've been seeing a lot of people get mad at this, but this kind of brings up a thing that kind of peeves me. It kind of rustles my jimmies because people are all up in arms and pissed off that. Well, there are people. I'm not sure there's a lot of people, but there are people who are pissed off and mad at the fact that it's a closed beta, and it's not the first game to do that. They're acting like it is the only game to do that, but I mean, Fallout 4 did it. They did it with their DLCs, for Christ's sake. Destiny 2 did it. Destiny did it. State of Decay 2 did it. There's a lot of games that have closed betas, and it's all for the sake of making money, which I can't really fault them for that, because that's the whole point of a business, is to make money. And when you've got a company and a series as big as Bethesda and the Fallout series, then you're going to get people who will pay a shit ton of money to be able to get early access to the game. And the whole point of a closed beta is to get to get certain people. It's to get people to play it, and then let them give their honest feedback about it. Because with a closed beta, you have a better sort of you have a better source than an open beta. Because sorry about that. That was my phone. I think I just got texted. Yes, I just got texted. No, I didn't. It was Twitter. But yeah, with closed betas, like I said, you have a more reliable and controlled source of feedback. To where if you have an open beta and you will have like you'll with Fallout with the game series as big as Fallout, you'll probably have hundreds of thousands of people playing it, and when you have hundreds of thousands of people playing the game, you're not going to be able to look at all of their feedback. Hell, a lot of it will probably. I mean, a lot of it's just going to will probably be repeated feedback. Hell, there's going to be troll feedback. Like you should just not develop the game and give me my money back and whatnot and shit like that. Like with the closed beta, you have more of a controlled source where you will have much less people playing the beta, which means you will have less feedback to look through, which is a good thing. It might not seem like a good thing, but it is a good thing because it helps you pinpoint the small and the big details. Because if you have 100,000 people saying the same thing is wrong with the game over and over again, chances are you're going to miss somebody who says something completely different that's wrong with the game. And that won't get fixed until later. To where if you have a closed beta where you have much less people playing it, like, say, 10,000 people playing it, maybe more because it's Fallout, you have less feedback to go through, which will help you kind of pluck the ones that seem like the biggest deal out of there. It's kind of you don't have as much repetitiveness because you'll have people saying the same thing's wrong with the game. You're going to get that regardless of whether it's closed or an open beta, but there's much less of it. And when you have less people saying the same thing, it makes it easier to see that one thing that's singled out. That's like you have, like I was saying, you have the same people saying this is wrong with the game, and then you get that one person that's saying this is wrong with the game. It'll be easier to see that comment. It'll be easier to see that feedback, and it'll make it. They'll be able to fix it quicker. Hopefully before release. Hopefully a little bit after release. But like I said, with an open beta, you've got so much feedback that you're not going to be able to go through it all and pick out and figure out all the problems with the game. So I know it sounds like a jumbled mess, but you guys know what I'm talking about and what I'm saying. But my cat is staring at the wall. What are you doing? Okay. But yeah. Anyways, enough with that little rant. Fallout 76 looks like it's gonna be kick-ass. I mean, they're bringing back the building and settlement part of it, which I'm happy about because I love doing that. Because when I play RPG games, I role play in them. With Fallout 4, I've played numerous characters with numerous types of game style builds. I've done big gun characters, handguns. Sorry about that. Rifles, snipers. You name it, I've played it. Melee. But every game I play is every game of Fallout 4 I play, I make sure that I build settlements and livable settlements as well, because yes, the whole point of the main game is to find your son, but at the same time, it's to rebuild the Commonwealth, and building homes and settlements is part of rebuilding the Commonwealth, which is what I do. I build settlements, I build houses and shit like that for people to live in, and it's great. So I mean, I just, like I said, I just like role playing in the game. I like role playing as a settlement leader. I like role playing as a general of the Minutemen, and whatnot. So, I honestly, I also just love building settlements in general. I think it's a good time killer if you have nothing else to do in the game. Or if you're just bored at home, it's a good time killer to go and build a settlement and whatnot. Sorry about that. I'm a little tired. But I mean, yeah. Settlement builds are coming back, which, like I said, I'm really happy for. Um, this game supposedly takes place 25 years well, no, I think it does take place 25 years after the bombs fell, because Vault 76, if you didn't know, was supposed to be a control vault, which means it was supposed to be just a normal vault. It was supposed to be a vault that you were supposed to live in, and it was supposed to open 20 years after the bombs fall, but it doesn't open until 25 years later, which begs the question: why didn't it open to 20? Why did it open 5 years late? And sorry about that. It's just, it just looks amazing, honestly. The story behind it, I'm not entirely sure what the story behind it is supposed to be. They say it's a combination of, it's like a composition. It's basically like DayZ or Rust, and like the whole survival aspect of it. Like, you're supposed to survive, and that excites me. You know, that gets me going. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Because that's what these games are ultimately supposed to be about. You're supposed to survive in the wasteland. Yeah, you have a main mission, obviously. Any game should have a main mission. But you're supposed to survive. You're supposed to go through this world and rebuild it. You know, you're not supposed to, like, walk out of the vault and just get immediately eaten by a fucking deathclaw. No, that's not how you do it. So I mean, the graphics, by the way, look fucking amazing. I am extremely ecstatic of how visually pleasing this game's supposed to be. That this game is going to be. It's, like I said, it takes place more than 20 years. So people are saying 25 because in the teaser trailer, it showed on a radio, I think it was, or a Pip-Boy maybe, that it was 5 years after the vault door was supposed to open. And I love when this game, because I love the fact when this game takes place, because like I said, 25 years after the war, or yeah, technically after the bombs drop, which means it is I believe it is the earliest game that's supposed to take place in the timeline of the Fallout series. That is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think this is supposed to be the earliest game in the timeline, because I think it's the closest to the war and to the end of the war that is within the game. That's within the timeline. It's been 25 years after the bombs dropped. That's pretty fucking early, and I love it because this means you get to see the legit aftermath of the the bomb drops. You know, you get to see what happened almost immediately after the bombs drop, and you get to talk and rebuild the world with the first settlers of Fallout. Um, and like I said, I'm going back to the whole it looks beautiful game thing. 'Cause, I mean, I know graphics aren't everything, but holy shit, does this game? It's just pleasing to look at. It's great to look at. It's fun to look at. It's colorful. It looks like it. I mean, it just looks like I'm not going to get bored staring at it. You know, Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas really had that issue where everything was just kind of gray and dull and bland. You know, it was just kind of boring to look at. And Fallout 4 kind of had the same thing going for it, where it was more colorful, but it was definitely more colorful than Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 4, but it was still kind of bland to look at, you know. But this game, Jesus Christ, I mean, there's all sorts of colors, and like I said, the graphics look fucking amazing. And it just looks like it's gonna be great. Now, probably the biggest news for this game is how big it's gonna be. This is in fact the largest Fallout game ever created. It's supposed to be it's set in a world 4 times larger than Fallout 4. And it's set in the hill. It's supposed to be set in the hills of West Virginia, or at some point. At least it's supposed to take place in Virginia. Your character is going to be you were one of the first to emerge in a very different and untamed wasteland, which means you were basically going to be one of the first ones out there and saying, holy shit, is this world fucked up. And remember when I said that was probably the biggest news? I was wrong. This is by far the biggest news coming out of Fallout 76 and Bethesda. Fallout 4 will be co-op. Yes. Fallout 4, Fallout 76, not 4, 76, will be co-op. Which is fucking awesome. I am extremely ecstatic that it will be co-op. I think it's 4-player co-op. Don't quote me on that. Because it just says here that they mostly showed it off as an online co-op game of the series. You can play with your friends. And some of the gameplay I've seen from E3 kind of shows. I think it looks like there's more than 2 people playing in one world, and if it's 4-player, that's fucking awesome. Hats off to them for being able to do that successfully. I know it's not easy to pull that off in an open world game and not have everything desync and whatnot. I guess it's not technically difficult because State of Decay 2 did it, GTA did it with a lot more people. But for co-op and a story, for co-op campaign, it's a little more difficult because it's not MMO. It's not like Elder Scrolls Online. Remember how much problems Elder Scrolls Online fucking had at first release? Jesus Christ, it was a disaster at release. But they managed to fix it, and now it's not so much cancer. I play it from time to time. Not a lot. but I play it from time to time when I'm bored, you know. Um, but yeah, hats off to Bethesda for making this happen, because I know this is something that players wanted with the Elder Scrolls series for a while. I'm not so sure if they wanted it for Fallout. I didn't really see anything about people wanting co-op for Fallout. I know people wanted it for the Elder Scrolls series, like I said, because medieval kind of screams adventuring party, you know, D&D and whatnot. But you know, it's good to see that Bethesda is expanding out to more multiplayer means, I guess you could say. Now that I know that they did that, like I said, I know they did Elder Scrolls Online, but that doesn't change anything, because Elder Scrolls Online fucking sucked, and this I don't think will suck, because it's not MMO, because it's just supposed to be you and your friends, it's supposed to be co-op, which means all they have to do is make sure that things sync properly and people are seeing the same, you know, animals and like animals and monsters and critters and creatures and shit like that. You know, that's all that they have to make sure they do that. They have to make sure everyone sees the same thing, so that way there's no confusion. Like, this guy's over here, like, Tim is over here fighting a Deathclaw, while Jake is over there traveling to the nearest town because he doesn't see the fucking Deathclaw. You know? So, I mean, I know it's not necessarily an easy feat to pull off, but if anyone can do it, Bethesda can, because, you know, they're Bethesda, and they haven't necessarily let us down too much in recent years. I mean, like I said, Elder Scrolls Online was a fucking disaster, but we'll let that one slide as long as this is good. But yeah, co-op and probably mine and all my friends' favorite part about this, you can fire nuclear missiles at people. That's great. That's all that needs to be said. You can fire nuclear missiles at your friends. Players will be able to use these codes to launch attacks on other player settlements, NPC enemy camps, and other random areas of the game, which will make them ripe for harvesting loot. Well, assuming you can survive the radiation the missile causes. Yeah. It's great. This being said, though, what this was announced, I couldn't help but think if this means it's going to be open world, like GTA style open world, where your friend can be on one side of the map and you could be on the complete opposite side of the map doing your own thing, or if it's going to be if it's going to be one of those games like State of Decay 2 is, where you have to stay within a certain distance of the host, or you'll get tethered and launched back towards them. You know, it's because, I mean, it says you will be able to launch. It says you'll be able to launch attacks on other players' settlements. So either it's going to be that you can play with your friends, and you can be on completely different sides of the map and not have to worry about desync issues and game loading issues, or it's going to be MMO. I'm not sure if it is. They didn't really specify whether it was or wasn't. They just said co-op, which could mean MMO, but it could also just mean, you know, private co-op with your friends. Now, this is something that kind of worried me a bit. The fact that it might be missing VATS. It says here that Vault-Tec's assisted targeting system, or VATS, well, at least in the game's lore, in terms of gameplay mechanics, it's a mode that lets you freeze the game and call your shots, displaying your chance to hit an enemy's arm, torso, legs, head, etc. with percentages. Is carried over from the game's 1990s origins when Fallout was an isometric tactical adventure game. Despite appearing in every iteration of the franchise since the original, it is not clear if VATS will be in Fallout 76. The game's E3 trailer didn't show a single moment of the targeting system, and it is hard to imagine how you could freeze combat in a multiplayer game without annoying the other players. It's possible the game could have modified version of VATS or slowdown mechanic introduced in the VR version of Fallout 4, but it is unclear at this time. So it's I'm not going to be necessarily sad that VATS is gone. It will make the game more challenging for sure and require a lot more skill. But it says here that, and even at E3, I can attest to this because I watched it. That it didn't show anything of VATS in the game, but then again, the gameplay only showed a majority of co-op multiplayer. So it could just be that they've managed to make co-op for single player, but when you go into multiplayer, you don't get those anymore. It's like GTA. You go into the main game and each of the three characters has their own special abilities. But you go into multiplayer and your multiplayer character doesn't get a special ability. So I'm wondering if they're going to be doing that type of mechanic where you have a single player character and a multiplayer character, or if they're going to do kind of what State of Decay 2 did with their multiplayer, where your friends can just join into your game, or you can join into your friend's game and whatnot, and everything's all hunky dory. Which would mean that VATS would not be in the game at all. Which makes sense. You can't really have a VATS system in the game. Like you can't really have a system in the game, like it said, that will stop or slow time down, so that way you can shoot a specific body part. Because it would be a really annoying thing for other players to deal with. Like if you're fighting like a Deathclaw and your friend's over there fighting some fucking wild mongrels or something like that. Say you're fighting something and your friend's like over there building a base, like building a settlement up and shit like that. And you all of a sudden go into VATS and then like the game just stops or just completely slows down, so that way you can shoot the Deathclaw in the head accurately. It just wouldn't make too much sense to have a VATS system in a multiplayer game. Because not only would it be really annoying, but it also wouldn't work mechanically wise. Just for the sole fact that most of the time, usually when you have VATS in the game, you have cinematic, I guess, not cutscenes, but you have cinematic angles of your character shooting in slow motion at the body part that you targeted, which wouldn't work mechanically wise in a multiplayer game. So I mean, it's, I'm not going to be too saddened about it if the multiplayer, if the co-op works, I'm not going to be upset about it too much, because when you shouldn't even really need VATS if you're playing with a friend, because you'll have two people shooting or attacking a monster at the same time, so you'll be dealing the same amount of damage as you would in VATS. So it's it's whatever. Like I said, it doesn't really sadden me too much. One of Bethesda described the game as a soft-core survival game. Death doesn't mean the loss of progression or of the end of your character like it does in other online survival games. This means you can play, take risks, and fail without fear of feeling like you've lost hours of gameplay for one mistake. If you join in on a friend's game, that progression goes with you to their world too. The online element, Howard says, is more about giving players a way to share their memorable game experience with others, though other players can absolutely be a threat to your survival. Watch out for those nuclear warheads. Yeah, it. Looking more into it, it looks like it's going to be an MMO, which I don't really want. I don't think anybody wants it to be an MMO. Just because, like I said, there's still a lot of bad taste in the mouth after Elder Scrolls Online from people after that release. But I'm hoping that you can have a private server with your friends to play the game with each other, with just you and your friends, like an invite-only session or something, like GTA has, like Rockstar has in general with their games. Red Dead Redemption and GTA games all have private servers that you can make invite-only for just you and your friends, you know? So, I mean, it's a wish. It's a hope. Like I said, I just really don't want it to be an MMO because a Fallout MMO just doesn't seem appealing to me. Because I mean, I understood the Elder Scrolls Online thing for it to be an MMO because it's Skyrim. It's literally the video game version of Dungeons and Dragons. Well, technically, Dungeons and Dragons Neverwinter is the Dungeons and Dragons the video game of Dungeons and Dragons, but Skyrim kind of has a more accurate representation of Dungeons and Dragons, where you have where you get it's a lot of travel. You know, like there's a joke in the in the RPG community where, you know, you travel for 4 days to get to a cave, only for the boss fight to last 30 seconds. You know, it's a time thing. You know, and Skyrim, I think, has a very accurate representation of that. You know, you travel long ways to get somewhere. You know, it takes you 10, 15, 20 minutes to get from point A to point B, depending on how far it is. Only for you to, like, say you're going from a city to go to a cave that's like a 10, 15-minute walk away and you don't have anything near there discovered to fast travel to. You go in the cave only to go get to the boss fight and kill the boss in less time it took you to travel. So I mean, the Elder Scrolls in general makes sense to have an MMO because, like I said, it's Dungeons and Dragons, and in Dungeons and Dragons, you very, 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 very rarely just see a one player game, because A, not only is it boring, but B, it's also not, I'm not going to say not possible, but it's extremely difficult. You know, like I'm not saying there's not people who do that, because there's definitely people who do that. But Dungeons and Dragons is a group game, and with Elder Scrolls Online, you can form guilds. You can get your friends in it, and then you can go and travel around with your friends. You know, doing missions, quests, dungeon diving. You know, it's amazing. But I mean, with Fallout, it's just that there's not too much of a point to it, you know? There's not too much of a point of having an MMO. I mean, there's not really too much point of having a co-op, because Fallout is supposed to be this deal where you're just one person and you go and save whatever region you're in. You know, you do you accomplish an incredible feat that will allow you to get recognition in the game and become famous in the game and whatnot. Because like I said, just think about it. Fallout 4, you had the lone survivor, or the sole survivor, not the lone survivor, the sole survivor of Vault 111. In Fallout New Vegas, you had the courier. In Fallout 3, you had the lone wanderer. You know, you were just one person, and you as that one person would go and make the whatever area you're in a better place. Like I said, Fallout 4, you were in the Commonwealth. Fallout New Vegas, Nevada, or just the Mojave Desert in general, or what's called the Mojave Wasteland in the game. Fallout 4, you're in Washington D.C. You know, it's or the Capital Wasteland as it's called. You know, you were just one person doing what you had to do, and that's really what Fallout's been about. Is, like I said, being just one person accomplishing a huge thing, like blowing up the Institute or blowing up the Pridwin. You know, it's just, it doesn't make much sense to have a part. I mean, it does make sense in a way where if this really happened and you survived it, it would make sense to have a group of people that you to travel with, because your chances, you know what they say, your chances of survival are greater in a group, because you've got more people to watch your back. You watch other people's backs. You know, 2 guns are better than 1. 2 heads are better than 1. That whole saying. I like 2 guns are better than 1 more, but you know what I mean. So I mean, like I'm not upset that it has co-op, but I will be I will be a little upset if it's MMO. And then after that, they went in and talked about the beta that you get with a pre-order. If you get the collector's edition, you can get a power armor helmet. You know, it's great. I love how they described it. Fallout 76 Power Armor Edition comes with a glow-in-the-dark version of the game map and a power armor helmet, complete with working headlamp. The helmet is designed to be wearable too, making Fallout 76 cosplay a little easier. You only have to build the rest of the armor yourself. So they're basically like, here, protect your head, but you have to protect the rest of yourself. But if you get shot in the head and you survive, it's because of us. But yeah, and when it was all said and done, Bethesda said that they didn't just say, they were promising that Fallout 76 will launch on November 14th, 2018. Which, by my calculations, is only, let's see, we're in June now. July, August, September, October, November. That's 5 months away. Holy shit. We are going to be getting Fallout 76 4 months not from now, but, you know, in 5 months. Not 4 months, 5 months, 5 months. 5 months, you guys, it's 5 months. But, yeah. But, in my opinion, something else completely overshadowed Fallout 76 and Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And that was the Elder Scrolls 6 teaser trailer was shown. And it was That's okay. Because I mean, they they just kind of dropped it in there. It was like they were done talking about Fallout 76 and all the stuff they were doing, and then they closed out they closed out their press conference with a tease. They closed out their press conference at E3 with a tease that all of its fans have been waiting for years. And then they dropped that Elder Scrolls 6 is happening, and it's coming out eventually. um, there was no details revealed for it, because they were so focused on announcing Fallout 6 and whatnot. And their titles like Starfield and shit like that. But they are still going to reach stores before the Elder Scrolls 6, obviously, because the teaser trailer was the only thing announced for the Elder Scrolls 6, and since they're mainly focused on Fallout 76 right now. They won't be. It's going to be. That would be quite a feat if they managed to get Fallout 76 and Elder Scrolls 6 out the same year. Like, you guys are about to fucking. You guys do that, you're going to bankrupt a shit ton of people. Nobody knows when it's going to come out. Obviously, it's going to be a next-gen game. And by next-gen, I hope they still mean Xbox One, PS4, and whatnot. Let's be honest. Who the fuck has the Xbox One X? Not the Xbox One X. Who the fuck has the Xbox X or some shit like that? I don't know what it's called. But I mean, whatever the newest Xbox is called, I mean, let's be honest. Who the fuck got that? The only people I can see who have that are people who didn't have an Xbox One, and they're like, oh, I might as well just get the newest one. Because, I mean, literally, it's the same exact thing as the Xbox One, just you can play in 4K. That's it. That's all it is. Nothing special about it. 4K is a sham. If I wanted to play in 4K, I wouldn't. Because that's expensive as hell, and I don't have a 4K TV. I'm fine with 1080p on the Xbox One. It's still HD, But yeah, nobody really knows anything about Elder Scrolls 6. It's really all that there is to it. It was just this small little thing that they decided to just poof drop in there at the end, and it just completely overshadowed everything before that. Like I said, Fallout 76 is a huge announcement, don't get me wrong, but Elder Scrolls 6 is probably the biggest announcement that has actually happened that's actually happened at E3. I'll say right now, it's probably the biggest thing that happened at E3. Considering the last Elder Scrolls game we got was Skyrim, and we've been waiting, 7 years now for a new Skyrim game, but they kept giving us Fallouts, which, don't get me wrong, I don't think anyone was really complaining about, but we wanted Elder Scrolls. Skyrim's great. Skyrim's still in my opinion, one of the greatest games to this day. It's still better than a lot of the games that come out to this day. Because a lot of the games that come out nowadays is like futuristic shit and whatnot. Because just look at it. Fortnite. Fortnite came out and is now huge, and I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. You've got Destiny 2. The new Call of Duties coming out are extremely futuristic. Um, it's a lot of futuristic stuff, and Skyrim is anything but futuristic. Um, it's still up there. If I was to rank like my top 10 if I was to rank my top 10 games, Skyrim would probably be in the top 5. So I mean, like top 10 video games, it would Skyrim be in the top 5 without a doubt. So, that's just my take on it. Um, but we are nearing the point of the end of the podcast. So I just want to take these last like 5, 6, 7 minutes to tell you guys about some stuff that's been happening. Then the podcast is still gonna be going on. Don't worry, don't worry. I will still attempt to get it up every Wednesday. But that'll be increasingly more difficult to talk about what I've created. I created this podcast to talk to you guys about news on RPGs, tabletop, and the like, and just give my overall view on RPGs, and occasionally tell stories, occasionally read exact excerpts from some RPGs, and I enjoy doing it. Don't get me wrong, but it is getting increasingly difficult to find any sort of news whatsoever on tabletop RPGs because tabletop role-playing games are not big. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a very good and hardcore fan base out there. But in terms of popularity and I guess not public knowledge, video games outshine that. Because why sit down and write stuff out and use your imagination to create scenarios and stories in your head when you can just turn on your Xbox and go into a video game that visualizes everything for you. So I'm going to be switching up the format a bit. Because with the popularity of tabletop role-playing games kind of declining, at least from what I can see, it's been declining a bit. Not an extreme amount, it's not like it's not going straight down, but it's been declining ever so slightly over the past few years. I mean, I started gaming back in, what was it, 2011? Is now 2018. So I've been gaming for what? 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I've been gaming for damn near 6 years now. So I've been able to see, because I mean, when I started gaming, I've only heard about it, and everything I heard about it was that it's a nerd's hobby and people who play it are losers, stereotypical. But as I play more and more, I've come to realize that it's not just a nerd's hobby. It's a fun game that, if you have a good imagination, it can be fun for anybody. But within my 6 years of role-playing, I've noticed that there was an increase in the popularity of tabletop gaming for a little bit there, but now it's starting to go back down from what I can tell, and it's making it increasingly more difficult to find news on the latest RPGs because there's not a lot of RPGs coming out nowadays because of the fact that tabletop games as a whole have been kind of outshined by card games. Magic the Gathering gained a shit ton of steam and still going strong. And instead of people spending money on tabletop games, They're spending money on Magic the Gathering cards, There's Magic the Gathering tournaments and shit like that. And so card games are kind of taking the spotlight away from tabletop games. So not a lot of people are coming up with new tabletop game ideas, you know? I mean, the game we talked about in the last episode, The Heroes of Asteria, I fanboyed over it. And because it's a kick-ass game. But unfortunately, not a lot of people are going to be able to notice it. Not a lot of people will notice it because because with where that article was placed, or when it was written, it was immediately outshined and surrounded by several by several different card game expansions, new card games, and whatnot. I mean, hell, just today I went to go look for RPG news, and I saw like 4 or 5 articles about the newest card game about new card game RPG card games coming out. So I mean, the card games kind of make it more difficult for there to be for people to create tabletop games. And if you're still out there creating your own tabletop RPGs, hats off to you, man. You guys are playing a risky game. And I hope that it goes well for you. Because if you create a tabletop RPG that survives in the gaming climate that is today, then congratulations. You've done an extremely difficult thing, and I salute you for that. Which is why it makes it my job. Like, I get paid for this, because I don't get paid for it. But it makes people like me and others who talk about tabletop gaming as a whole important, because the more people you have talking about the latest tabletop RPG coming out, the more people it will reach. And I'm no PewDiePie. I don't have 65 million subscribers to talk about this too. I mean, the RPG Speak channel as a whole only has 14 subscribers. So I mean, it's gonna take a lot more than just me to talk about this stuff. Now, where this leads the podcast is that for the time being, I'm not going to stop talking about tabletop RPGs, because that's what I built this podcast for, is to talk about RPGs. But I'm no longer just going to be talking about RPGs, or at least tabletop gaming RPGs, or card games. Although I don't think I've talked about a single card game yet. Yeah, no, I'm going to, as this episode proved, I will be talking about video games as well. But it's not going to be what you think. I'm not going to, report on every video game that comes out. What I'm going to be focused on with video games are obviously the really big things like Fallout 76, Elder Scrolls 6, and whatnot. I'm going to be focused on really big games. And then I'm also going to be focused on really small games, like indie games and stuff that people don't really know about. But they could know about it, And if it's good, I'll talk about it. And with all of that being said, I will mainly be reporting and talking about RPG video games. The games like the Elder Scrolls, the games like Fallout, the games like Neverwinter, any game that has some form of role-playing in it, I will try to talk about as much as possible. And that's not only to clickbait the shit out of people into listening to this podcast, but it is also because I believe it'll make my life easier and your guys' life easier. Because I know a lot about tabletop and video games, but I know more about video games than either of them. So I'm going to be able to have more coherent discussions about it. I say discussions like there's somebody else with me, because there's not yet. Yeah, so switching up the format a bit just for now, just until either the tabletop gaming craze, I say craze like it's popular, just until tabletop gaming kind of gets back to where it was and isn't so overshadowed by card games, and or if it just like completely dies out. So, it just makes my life easier. It makes your guys' life easier listening to me form comprehensive sentences and discussions, so that way your ears aren't bleeding from ear cancer, I guess. I don't know. But this is going on much longer than this ramble thing was going on, much longer than I intended it to. So, I'm going to end it there, you guys. I hope you guys did enjoy episode 2 of RPG Speak. Hint, hint, wink, wink, because it isn't really episode 2. I'm just saying it's episode 2 because I'm restarting the entire project. So, yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening to this. All the links will be in the description to everything I talked about today. And also, I want to hear you guys' point of view on everything about Fallout 76, Elder Scrolls 6, what your thoughts about that is going to be, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and any other games at E3 that I didn't talk about that you guys want to have a discussion with me about. Post in the comments below. I will respond to as many people as I possibly can. And let's have discussions, I like having discussions. Arguments don't get anywhere. Don't get anyone anywhere. But yeah, before I start rambling, thank you guys so much for watching. My name is, as always, Cool Jamma, and I will see you guys again. Stay cool, Jammas. See ya!